Last time, we were able to conjure up a text field using ActionScript. And so this lesson is going to have a similar function in where we bring a movie clip from the library onto the stage. If you want to reference the code I'm about to type out, you can open up the work file 0203_movieclip_actionscript.fla. But if you want to follow along and write this from scratch, just keep watching, and here we go. First, let's create an ActionScript 3.0 file, and we will come down here to the layer 1 and rename it Actions. That should be a familiar practice by now. And we need something in the library to reference. So let's come over here to the toolbar and click on the rectangle tool. Now, we're simply just going to draw a rectangle on the stage. So we can just click and drag and create that rectangle. So now we want to make this a symbol. And a symbol is essentially a grouped object that we can reference with ActionScript. So I can take my selection tool and just click on the rectangle. You'll notice I have the actions and the rectangle on one layer, and I kind of just said before that's not a good practice. And don't worry, we're going to get rid of the rectangle here momentarily, so it won't be an issue. So once you have the rectangle selected, you can hit F8, or you can go up to Modify, Convert to Symbol, whichever you're comfortable with. So now we will name this MC Rectangle and make sure that it is a movie clip. So once you've done that, and you also too may want to just adjust the registration. I usually like to have my registration in the center. So once you've done those three things, you can click OK. So now we have a rectangle in the library. We need to also, though, create a linkage so that ActionScript knows what to reference. You can't just reference the name of the movie clip by itself. You need to have an instance name or a linkage name. So if you double click right here on the library panel, you can enter in a linkage name. So we'll name this MC Rectangle. And having the same name as a movie clip is a common practice, and that is fine, especially if it makes it easier to remember. So now that you've done that, take your selection tool and click on the rectangle and just hit delete. That way it's off the stage, we have a blank stage, and we only have something in the library. Now I'll click on this first keyframe and go up to Window, Actions. Now, we're going to need a variable, so we'll start with this, var, and then we'll name the variable myRectangle. We're going to need a colon, and here is where we're going to reference that linkage name. So MC Rectangle, and then that is going to equal a new MC Rectangle. And then we will, of course, do two parentheses and close it off with a semicolon. So this should look really familiar if you remember the previous lesson with the text. We did a variable there as well, and it's pretty much the same thing in regards to how you identify the variable. So from here, we need to position the rectangle on the stage because we can adjust the position numerically. So we'll reference the variable, so the rectangle, so myRectangle. And then from here, we're going to enter in .x. And the reason for this is because we're going to adjust the x-axis, or the left and right, or the horizontal position of the object. And that is indicated by x. And you can also adjust these things on the stage. Numerically, you might see x and y values. You can adjust it on the stage. That's basically what we're doing here, except we're doing it with code. So from here, you want to position it based on pixels. So in this case, let's put in 300. And we can always come back to this later if we want to readjust. And we put in a semicolon. So now for the next line, you guessed it, we're going to use .y. That's the vertical or up and down position of the object in 100 for right now. And then we'll just close it off with a semicolon. Now finally, we're going to need to add the object onto the stage. And if you remember, with the text, we use add child to do so. So my rectangle, and then we just close it off with a semicolon. So now, referencing the code and looking at it, everything should be good to go. We can just now go up to Control, Test Movie, and give it a test. And as you can see, the rectangle is now on screen. Now we may want to adjust the position a bit, and that's fine. We can just close out of this, and maybe I put 200 in for the Y value, and then export it. And you can see now it's more on the screen. And so you can definitely adjust those values to adjust the position of the rectangle or your movie clip. So finally, there's one more little thing I want to point out. We can also adjust the rotation. So if I put in dot, my rectangle dot, and we use rotation, and then we put in a value, again based on pixels, we can adjust the rotation. And it's very similar to using the free transform tool where you could rotate the image or the symbol. It's very much the same thing. So if we render that out, we can see we have rotated the object. And that's just a little bit about creating a code or a series of statements that will allow you to import movie clip symbols into your project and onto the stage.